Hello, welcome again. Thanks heaps for coming along again. Love our chats, Madeline. And today we're going to talk about Christmas and all the craziness of Christmas, and you're just going to talk us through, the madness and how to navigate it. But first of all, just for those who don't know you, do you mind introducing yourself again and just let everyone know who you are and what qualifies you to talk about Christmas madness?
All right. Hi, I'm Madeleine. I'm a psychologist and I specialize in childhood trauma, particularly the fawn response out of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So particularly dealing with narcissistic types of personalities and family members, partners, and all the kind of traps that you can fall into. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to our chat today.
Yeah. And funny because, your expertise is, sort of like that narcissistic thing. But actually at Christmas time, I mean, we've already talked about this in another interview, but at Christmas time, that is when all the crazies, I mean, the crazy of all the crazy narcissists come out to play quite often, eh?
Yeah, it's the end of the year. Everybody's tired. Sometimes family events or special occasions just bring out bad behavior in people all the time. So yeah.
So for me personally, I have had the experience of being involved with narcissistic families at Christmas time, and not actually my own family but my ex-husband's family. And they were Christmas time was horrific. Like all of them were like would have anxiety, and like nobody wanted to go to Christmas with the family, and it was all like it was just like a big huge struggle for them to really just to even go, just to actually go. But they, even as adults, they were really very controlled, and they felt forced into having to be there at Christmas. So tell me, where it comes to narcissistic parents, like, when you're an adult and you've got a narcissistic parent, how do you navigate that Christmas thing? Is there a way to say no to those kinds of people, or how does that work?
Oh, it's really tricky, and it's such a shame too when special occasions can be a really nice time for families coming together and meeting each other when we've all got busy lives and things. And then when you're dreading it, or when it's always going to be a bad time, it's such a missed opportunity. But yeah, when you've got a narcissistic parent and you've kind of grown up in these dynamics, it can be incredibly hard to be like, hey, I'm tapping out, or that's it, because you feel so compelled to keep playing out the same dynamics, because that's what you've kind of been trained or conditioned to do from when you're a child. So taking a step back and just trying to identify maybe some trigger behaviors that your parent might have, or a family member, and just starting to make a plan around how you might navigate it. Because I always have this happen to me with people and that I have difficulty with. And I know they have particular behaviors that might offend me or make me feel really uncomfortable. And every time they do it, it's like I'm blindsided again, and I don't expect it, even though I know that they
Yeah.
always do that kind of thing. But when you're in the moment and it happens, you're like, oh, what do I do? And it can
Yeah.
be so hard.
Is that kind of like that fight flight, what is it, something in fawn, what's the other?
Freeze and fawn, like
Freeze
you're
and
frozen,
fawn.
you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And
Yeah.
then you have like the best comeback, the next day in the shower,
Yeah.
but right there in the moment, it's like so hard to get yourself moving or responding in a way to assert yourself, or stick up for
Yeah.
yourself.
So it's like your little girl, your little child comes back in, and you feel a little bit frozen by maybe that triggering behavior that when you grew up with that really controlling behavior of you. And so when you become an adult, you revert back to that little kid thing again. It's like, oh, I can't, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It's like a scared thing, I guess, which is a really good point where it comes to, so, okay, we can manage ourselves as adults, perhaps, but what about when you've got your own children, and, you're bringing these kids to your family function where the behavior is all wrong, and then your children have to, it's like, how do you protect your children or navigate that situation with kids? You might know how to do it, but what about them?
Yeah, it's really tricky, because you're like, oh, do I want my kids to be exposed to this, or And I guess it's up to everybody in their own situation to assess the situation and see whether those behaviors are really harmful and damaging, whether you want to expose your kids to that kind of behavior, whether you want to be like, no, kids come first. We're not going to participate. Or sometimes, you know, when you've got these dynamics and they hurt you and you want to protect your kids, and then you see the parent or the other family members are starting to do the same thing to your kids as they did to you, like maybe little put downs or being critical and things like that, and you just want to protect them. And that's when it's really good to work on your boundaries and saying, look, hey, I got this, that's cool, you know, you just relax, you enjoy the day, I'm parenting here, and moving along and try to shut down whatever that they might be overstepping boundaries with you.
I can like, I'm visualizing as you're saying that, like retorting back to a person who probably is quite narcissistic, because I'm thinking this specific person, and I can honestly imagine the blow up that would happen if, you know, so this might happen with other people as well, the blow up that would happen if you actually confronted somebody even nicely about their behavior, that they're overstepping the boundaries into your children. So what, like, is there a cutoff point? Do you just go, okay, you're just walking away, you're not saying anything, you're going home? What, you know, like, do you risk ruining everybody else's day because you have decided you're putting your boundaries down? How does it work? Or do you just be quiet like you would when you're a little girl, little boy, and just let them keep...
You're not responsible for how they react. If they choose to react and be reactive and blow it up, that's not your fault. You know, you can only do what is in your control. And if they want to respond like that, then they're the ones that have made a big deal about it, not you. And then you respond accordingly. But I mean, you know, there's little ways that you can do to try and navigate the situation without it blowing up. Like, you don't have to say things super seriously. You can be, you know, have a big smile on your face when you say it, and not exactly confront them, but say it in a way like, oh no, I'm doing this, and distract and moving along, rather than going, oh look, it's really, you know, you telling my kid this, and I feel like you're overstepping a boundary. And in those moments with narcissistic type personalities, they might see red and start to get really reactive. So it's like you have to be one step ahead and go, I'm already, you know, I've got it, I'm already doing this, and you relax, you just take it easy. You know, I know you've been working really hard and you just need to enjoy your day. So you just stay over there, and I'm going to look after my kids, and they're going to be right over here away from you.
See, I am just not that nice of a person. Like, I just could not pander to that kind of personality, and like, oh, you know, you just relax and have a nice day. I just don't think I could even do that. So but what I could do is, and I like your idea of like kind of distracting the children, so maybe the kids don't notice it as much as you do, because, you know, it's your trigger. And maybe just like taking the kids away. I like that idea, taking them away from the situation, taking them for a walk in the garden or whatever. That could be quite nice. And then I guess by the time you get back the atmosphere or whatever, that thought process could have changed. Yeah. Oh, but I mean, just horrible. I do feel really sorry for people who have to, you know, I guess like have really horrible family Christmases, because I've never, apart from when I was married, I actually had never experienced that before. I had, like, if we wanted to go to our parents' house for Christmas, we went, but if we didn't and we were busy, I mean, you know, if we had other things that we had done, and because I lived another part of New Zealand, so, you know, there was no expectation, and there was no like, well, you need to be here and it's a family thing, you know, there was none of that, which made it just like so good. And then because there's no pressure, you actually do want to go and spend time with your family, because it's not a forced thing, and like, you're like, oh yeah,
genuine.
You totally want it, it's genuine. But for those who feel really pressured to go to family things, I just feel like, is there a way, like, you know, if you just really do not want to go, everything in your soul is saying, I do not want to do Christmas with my family or this family or whatever, is it okay just to say, no, I can't, I'm sorry? Like, do we have to lie about it? Do we tell them the reasons why, or do we just make up excuses? What do we do?
You got to make the decision in your own situation, and everybody has a different context, but you've got to think about your own mental health. And if you're the one looking after your family, you got to make sure that you're okay first, so that you can look after your family, rather than giving yourself away and breaking your back just for the sake of being there on the day when you're going to be a mess afterwards, and it has a knock-on effect to your family. So really, if you are going to make the call, then get support and make sure that you've got other people like that understanding of your situation and can give you emotional support, because sometimes when you finally say no, enough's enough, people don't like that, but you have every right to, if you feel that that's what's needed in the situation.
And I can actually see how people and families turn to alcohol and drugs at Christmas time. I mean, some just do it out of like the whole jovial, have a few beersies kind of thing, and that's cool. But then there's definitely the whole, what is it like? I guess masking your feelings. Hey, like just trying to get through a day, and you're drinking and you're taking stuff. I don't know, like what's your advice around that kind of thing for people who feel so pressured they're going to go? Like, what would you say? Like, because I think personally, I would think that, and I know that I did this at the ex's parents' house. I would had too many vodkas just because I just was so stressed. So then it would be like, oh, too many vodkas, it kind of can ruin a thing. So what would be your advice about, how you control yourself in that situation?
If you're aware of that, like if you're thinking, oh, okay, you have a tendency to like keep knocking them back when I go to these events because it's so stressful. Like if you're aware of that and you can identify that that's what's actually happening, then maybe you want to make a shorter period of time and go, okay, look, I know that if I spend the whole day here or the whole into the evening, I'm not going to be very good at the end of it. I'll make an appearance, but we're going to make it short and sweet, and we'll have a organized out, so something already planned so that we can leave or excuse ourselves early, and then so that you've got more of it in your control, rather than being trapped in a situation where you feel like you can't escape, and then therefore the only way is to escape into alcohol or getting drunk just to get by, when if that's what's going on, you know that emotionally that's not a good situation for you.
I mean, I have seen families, siblings do this in families where they'll just say, or actually just make it up, oh, we're going to be here in the morning for breakfast, and then we're going to the other parents, or we're going somewhere else at lunchtime. We'll just make up a place that they're going, just so that they can have an out. So that's probably a safer option than maybe just saying I'm not coming at all, and no, sorry, I don't like your toxic behavior, and then I guess then you end up having to pay for it for months afterwards from family members who are like, jaded because you're putting your boundaries down. How do you put your boundaries down, like gently? Like, what's a nice gentle way?
Like say, like having that organized out so that you're still keeping connected to the family, but you don't have to be there for a long period of time. And sometimes when that you're not trapped in the situation, then you can tolerate it a little bit more, because you feel like you've got a little bit more power, rather than being helpless and exposed to people that you don't want to. And you can always go, oh, well, we're doing this side of the family this year, next year, maybe you want to tag team it, and try and start to initiate new patterns where you're not there every year, or shifting the expectation slightly, so that expectation of you being there for the whole time, every single Christmas, is starting to change, and you can do that gradually.
I same people that I'm thinking about, same family I'm thinking about, because I literally don't know any other like hardcore narcissist families, but with this family it ended up that the boys they ended up not just like completely rejecting the parents for quite a long period of time, and so then the parents actually did not have their family Christmases anymore. Like they ended up quite alone. And interestingly, I think from what I gather, they might be spending more time with all together as a family again. And it seems to be that now the parents who were the narcissist, like hardcore narcissistic ones, who used to make people feel like they had to turn up and be there, and everyone was trying to find excuses why they couldn't be there. Now the parents, it's like a gaslighting thing. I feel like now they're doing the whole, we'll turn up to your house and we'll be there just until whatever amount of time, and then we've got to go. Like, now that it's kind of like they've flipped it on the family now, and now they do it. I mean, I would prefer it to be like that if that was me, but isn't that interesting how narcissists can never they never like to lose anything. Like, they never like to look like they've lost, like they kind of lost their family and now they've flipped it on the family. It's just weird.
Yeah, because it's all about power control and who's got the power now, and who's got control, and instead of just being like, okay, let's compromise, or let's work it out and problem solve, or how do you feel about that, and let's work through it. It's always like a competition, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is crazy. Okay, so and now this is I know we're talking about narcissistic families at the moment, but what about just in general, like say toxic family members, not necessarily narcissistic ones, but maybe there's one particular sibling who always causes trouble no matter whatever occasion you go to, and they always will cause some kind of drama. Like, what do you do in that situation around Christmas time, where you just want to have fun and you just want to be with your family, and then you've got one person who ruins it for everybody?
I know, it can be so hard. And like with those special occasions, whether it's Christmas or birthday, or if the attention's not on them, then they can start to act up with their behavior, and so everything ends up being about that person. And I suppose it depends really on if that person has a habit of putting you down or telling you how to live your life, or trying to kind of dominate over you, or be controlling, or whether just in general that they have like obnoxious behavior, and it's really difficult, and you're like, oh, I just don't want any of that. So if you're trying to not be as engaging as you normally are, because you don't want to get pulled into that person's behavior or what they're talking about, and you just want to have a nice day, there's little strategies that you could do, like making yourself busy, go do a job if they're kind of around, so that you're not engaging so much in conversation. Maybe you just want to be amicable and nice, and then just kind of gloss over things and go off and I'm doing the dishes, or I'm taking photos of everybody, or I'm sorting out, or just go play with kids.
That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, I really like that idea. Again, I don't really have that kind of situation, but I've seen it a lot of families, and a lot of the girls are already talking about, oh no, Christmas is coming and how am I gonna handle this? What is it like, what kind of advice maybe would you give for somebody who because I'm actually hearing a lot about this at the moment, people whose kids have been quite estranged from them, or due to their relationships, maybe the daughter-in-law doesn't want to come and see the parent, and so now the mother's grieving her son and all that sort of thing. So what sort of advice would you give to a family where that they're sad because they can't have their kids there for Christmas? Not a narcissistic thing, but maybe just complications in relationships, and so they're going to be missing out on their family at Christmas because of other dynamics that have gone wrong. What would you say to somebody who's left alone for Christmas?
Well, I'd say I'm sorry to hear that. Anybody that's feeling sad and grieving around that time, and and sometimes that's a good way for you to get through your Christmas. If you've got other people that are going to be alone, you're like, hey, come to my Christmas, and then you guys can team up, and it might act as a social buffer for you if you're dealing with difficult family members, and somebody that might be feeling lonely or sad, they've got people to spend time with.
That's really nice.
That's always there's lots of people that Christmas brings so much up for them, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, aside from just that emotional stuff, what about like financial stuff? Do you have any thoughts on the stresses of the finances of Christmas? Like how do you have ideas on what
you can do? And if other people are putting expectations on you, and everybody has to have a present and this and that, it's hard. It's hard to buy food at the supermarket at the moment, let alone buy Christmas presents, and you know, you just got to make that decision for what you can do, and let go of other people's judgments, because if they don't know your personal situation or what, you know, you're willing to do, or what you know your capacity is in the situation, you know, it's not about that. It's about like coming together and spending time together. And yeah,
it's so funny because I think, like, as having been a single mum for so long, I feel like I did the whole what do you call it, like what's that word, overcompensating. Like at Christmas time I'd be like, I would just go all out trying to find ways to make, you know, get my kids lots of cool things. And like Christmas, like when I look back at Christmas photos, I think, man, how did I do that? How did I afford that? And why did I do that? Like, because I do remember some years having like a cue card that I took cash out on to get presents, and it's like, man, I probably paid that off over years. I don't know, I probably did. And I'm thinking about now, like, I made a decision this year, no matter what, that I wasn't going to go, I'm sorry, we're not going all out this year anymore. My 2 older kids are adults, and then my 2 younger kids, you know, they're little. But I'm like, we'll do stuff for the little kids, but for us older ones, we're doing Secret Santa. So we just pull a name out of the hat, one present, and that's it. And you just be happy with your one present. Otherwise, it's no presents. But it's so weird. It's like, I overcompensated for years because I felt like a useless single mum, and I just wanted to always be proving to myself and my kids that I wasn't a useless single mum. Now I don't feel like a useless single mum anymore. It's like, actually, you know what, you guys, I'm not going into debt for anybody this year. Sorry, you know, we'll have a nice day, and I'm not having food that goes off in the fridge for a whole week later because we've made every dish that everybody ordered. So I'm like, this year, you bring the dessert, you bring the chips and dips, I'll do this, and we'll have that one present between all the adults, you know, one present each between the adults, and then we'll do the kids. And honestly, the level of stress that came off me from making that decision, and also finding out that my kids didn't care, like they're like, that's awesome. Even my little kids,
sure they just thought you were an awesome mum the whole time.
The whole time I was just over awesome. No, so, you know, and even my little kids, it's funny because they've gotten into the whole, you know, it's almost like they're vibing with us, going, oh, cool, so you do that, we'll do the Secret Santa. And then my 10-year-old, she said, oh, well, I want to do Secret Santa too. I only want one present. I just want to do Secret Santa as well. It's like, what?
But that's nice. And it's like those little rituals or other kind of things that happen at Christmas time, and those are the things that they're going to remember, not that present that they got.
I mean, it looks all pretty when you take the photos of all the presents, and that's all gorgeous, but I mean, I don't think my kids would remember hardly a thing that they got, because, you know, when they have too much, there's just not one thing to concentrate on. And I think this year I feel like quite proud of myself. I'm going to give you something solid, something that you can remember. One gift.
Yeah, and you're going to really, really remember that one gift.
But also, I also thought that just the whole, I don't know, it's just changed the way they think of Christmas. Like my the big kids, like I said, they were like, cool, that's a good idea, cool. And the little kids, I've talked to them about it. I've said, I don't actually want to spend lots and lots of money this year. I just want us to have like a relaxed Christmas. And I said, actually, I also feel like this year, because, you know, every year you see everybody's pictures of all their Christmas presents piled up to the ceiling under their trees, and there will be some people who don't get anything. And I thought, actually, this year I'm not taking photos of all of my things, all of the food and all of the presents and all that, not because I'll take photos, but I'm just not gonna be posting them all over the show so people can see how cool our Christmas is, because actually I'm just so much more mindful now about how depressing that can be for people who don't have a lot. So I don't know, my thinking's like really changed this year. I don't know why.
Yeah, but it's nice that you're doing that with your kids, you know, with the presents and stuff, and then then it's not like all on your shoulders, and then they're kind of like part of that process too.
Mm. Yeah, because, and that's another thing, like, I don't want my family, I mean, I don't think they will remember it like this, but Christmas for me has always been quite stressful. Like, I want to enjoy the day as well. And for me, it's always been, I've got to be up the night before wrapping 500 presents, and then I've got to prepare all the food, and then I've got to get up early at the same time as them so that I can take photos of everybody unwrapping everything. And then I've got to prepare the food and pour the drinks and make sure everyone's happy. And so as Christmas was coming, I was like, holy, I'm getting anxiety about Christmas, and it's not how it should be.
Yeah.
This
Like, you want to enjoy your day too.
Yeah. But also just, like, I wish I'd started this earlier, but get others to contribute, like, not do everything yourself, and, people just turn up. So,
yeah. So, and that's teaching them as well.
Yeah, totally. And I just think that's a way to make Christmas quite a lot, the craziness of Christmas just simmer down a little bit, eh?
Yeah, definitely. I've always, because I'm a single mama too,
Yeah.
and always running around trying to go to grandparents and trying to fit everything into the one day, and you only got half a day, or then you're not really knowing what the schedule is, and it can get very stressful. And I was trying to give every extended family members presents and things like that, and feeling really guilty, but now it's like, I'll bake some cookies.
Yeah, that's so good. And I'll wrap everyone up one.
Yeah.
So good. I like it. Actually, that's another point as well before we finish up. But I was thinking the whole, kids sharing time with the other parent at Christmas. Like, I don't have that issue because my little girl's dad kind of became estranged of his own free will for quite a few years, and now they don't want to go to him, so he kind of lucked out, really. But what do you do, like, where it comes to sharing children on Christmas Day?
Yeah, and that can be a point of conflict too, depending on who's got family events when, or when do they want them, and who misses out. And yeah, it can be a really stressful time in that way as well. Or when you do have absent parents, and you want your child's parent to be there, but they're missing in action, or they're not making it a priority, and then you're feeling for your kids too, because you can see that they're hurting. So it's tricky, and my advice is to make sure that you look after you, so that you can look after your babies and help get through those situations.
Yeah, that's actually quite good, because when you're happy and relaxed, or when you're when you're okay, then your kids vibe off that, and they are okay as well, I think. And they also, it's funny the things that they remember, because they might not necessarily remember all of the presents and all of this and all of that, but they always remember the fun stuff that you do. And and then interestingly, like, my kids we were talking about whether they want to go to their dad's house, and they just every weekend it's like, no, they haven't been there for ages, and they just don't want to go, so they keep making excuses. And now it's coming up to Christmas, I'm like, you probably should go, because haven't seen him for ages, and it's nearly Christmas. And then my littlest, she said, yeah, well, it's coming up to Christmas, so those presents that our dad said were on their way last year for last Christmas probably should be here by now. Like, she actually was like, she actually took note of the fact that he had lied to her about Christmas presents that never showed up. And now this year they're like, whatever, we don't want to do Christmas with him. So they remember stuff, eh? They're
quite perceptive, and they watch behavior, kids, don't they?
They do.
You might feel like, you might want to shelter them from the other parents' behaviors, or sometimes you're so frustrated at their behaviors, you want to be like, but you can't do that, because you don't want to put your emotions on your child. But whatever it is, people generally reveal themselves after a while, don't they? And
yes, they do. Yes, they do. And if you can calmly navigate your way around this situation, then that's the long-lasting effect on your child. Like, they know that you have calmly managed the situation. And so I plan to calmly manage Christmas this year. And I hope that everyone else gets to have some kind of, from these tips and tricks for navigating Christmas. I hope that they get to make a bit of a plan before Christmas Day, and have a smooth sailing Christmas Day. And I hope
have a nice time.
Yes, have a nice time. That would be awesome. Thank you so much for coming along again. That's so good. I love all of your little bits of advice. So great. Yep. And so we are going to post this into the newsletter. We haven't done a newsletter for such a long time. And this little video is going to go into the newsletter along with your blog that you've so kindly written for us around about navigating Christmas as well. So people can have a nice read, maybe on Christmas Day. And thanks heaps for coming along. Appreciate you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Catch you next time.